Good morning, everyone. My name is Gabby Carrion, and on behalf of Caresoft Technology Corporation, I would like to welcome you all to our webinar. And with that, I will hand it over to Gary.
Hey, thanks, Gabby. How are y'all everyone doing today? We're looking forward to this webinar today that we're jointly doing with Commvault. Cyrus Cama from Commvault has joined us today, and we're going to be kind of talking through, what you see there on the screen. We're going to tell you a little bit about ourselves, and then we're going to talk about what is cyber resiliency and the history of it, because it's really evolved over the last 30 years of IT, where it used to be everyone just had mainframes in their basements that weren't connected to anything. And then kind of some of the tools that the government has come out to help customers with figuring out how to be cyber resilient. And then we'll kind of talk about, solutions that Hitachi and Commvault can bring to the table to help our customers with this, because it's beyond just data protection or taking snapshots anymore. And I think there's some solutions that we can offer together that are really powerful for our customer base. And if there's any questions, we'll take care of those. Either Seth Goodling, who's from Commvault, may answer those online live, or we'll answer them at the end of our session. So kind of first, my name is Gary Hicks. I'm the Chief Technology Officer of Hitachi Vantara Federal. I've been here a little over 11 years and seen us really change from being just a data storage provider to more of a data solutions provider. And OEM partnerships like we have with Commvault just strengthen our position in the marketplace for that. I've been in IT over 30 years, and like many people, I fell into data storage because someone left and I was the only one that knew how to log into the storage array or the server that was connected to it. So, and I do love to golf and travel. So when I can, not during busy season, but October's coming soon. So with that, Cyrus, you want to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Gary. So my name is Cyrus Cama. I've been with Commvault since January, but prior to that, I was with Hitachi for 4 years as the data protection expert globally for Hitachi. I've been in data protection for 25 years now. I've worked with various VARs over the years. It started with TSM, and I worked at HPE, and as I said before, Hitachi Vantara, and now I'm with Commvault. My role here is supporting the Hitachi Vantara Alliance globally at Commvault. And, I like basically following my kids' travel, sports, and when we can, trying to flip some homes with my wife. So
that doesn't sound like a very relaxing hobby, but that's neither here nor there. But
it's a lot of work, yeah.
Good. So we're going to start off with a poll question for everyone, and there's kind of the poll question up there. When you think of cyber resilience, what does it primarily mean to you? So you can see the selection. So go ahead and pick what y'all think corresponds most to when somebody says cyber resilience to you. What does that mean? Just wait to see some people start to coming in. Oh. So 53% said continuously adapting to new cybersecurity challenges, which doesn't surprise me at all. And kind of number two is maintaining business operations during a cyber incident. You see things like Colonial Pipeline and things of that nature, and you hear about these health systems and schools around the world, running into these ransomwares. That's not surprising that both of those are there. And actually, one that got 0% was quickly detecting and responding to cyber threats. I'm wondering if people kind of feel like they've gotten to the point where they're a little bit better at that in the marketplace with the evolution of tools in the space. So that's good. So let's kind of talk about what is cyber resiliency. So, if you look at the world, it's really changed over the last, 60 years of IT. We have exponential hybrid chaos. And this comes from, I think, really people moving to the cloud heavily and, understanding how that affects their security landscape and having the right tools in place, the right security protocols, the right access protocols. And that AI paradigm shift, you go back to that, the keeping up with the cyber challenges. AI is going to continue to influence that, and we're already seeing that with some cyber attacks from state operators across the world. And then ransomware is everywhere. It used to be, you worried about, I'm aging myself, chain letters that come in the mail. Now, you get a email, and if you're not very careful, you can easily click on something and introduce ransomware into that, including the backup, because especially as we move away from tape-based technologies, we're moving into that. So, we'll talk a little bit about the evolution of cyber resiliency.
On that note, Gary.
Yeah, go ahead.
So you talked about AI. So we all know AI, yeah, it was developed to do, initially good stuff, right? But the bad actors are using it as well. We have to worry about our kids possibly using it, right, to do their papers at school and all, right? But the ransomware attacks are now increasing because they're utilizing the AI. And I'll get into it in a future slide, but Commvault's also utilizing AI to improve our own product as well. You know, on that note, what you were talking about with AI and ransomware, I mean, it's just, I'm not surprised with what you showed in the results in the poll about detecting cyber attacks early and all, how it was 0%. I think because people are taking it for granted that everyone's just getting hit, right? On a daily basis. But I'll go also into some things that Commvault's doing within our own software that helps customers around early warning detection. So,
yeah, absolutely. Especially as we start to look at kind of the NIST cybersecurity 2.0
yeah,
framework,
exactly.
that'll feed into that. So let's talk a little bit about the history of cyber resiliency, and it, when we go from the 80s to the early 2000s, I would even say kind of the late 1990s, we were focused on safeguarding key data and apps, and really what it was if you were connected to the internet, you had, if you talked about cyber then, no one called it cyber then, but you would have firewalls, you would have a DMZ, you would have the customer enterprise network, and you were really focused on stopping people at that point from getting into your enterprise network. Yeah, and everyone had this inherent trust once you were in that enterprise network, and you focused on backup and recovery techniques and business continuity of operations. And I don't know what you think about this, Cyrus, but when I was working then and I ran the backup and disaster recovery practice at the company I was at, it was all focused on kind of two things: one, smoking hole, and then doing a DR test in case we had, the data center flooded, or you
Right.
had
Yep.
specific servers that hardware failures. It wasn't focused on kind of this customer attack. Someone is attacking us or trying to hack into us.
I mean, look, going back to the early days, you just hit on it. The focus is around DR tests, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the difference with a disaster recovery as opposed to a cyber recovery is that, if you recall, we would go to a SunGuard or an IBM facility, trucking tapes all over there. And he said, we're going to take last Thursday's backup and we're
Yeah.
going to recover from that. And the pains that were involved with just trying to recover, especially from the world I was in with TSM, having to rebuild that server,
Oh, yeah.
and then having to get, like you said, all those tapes and recover from to that point in time. Things have changed. It's evolved, as you're showing here, where now the focus is on recovery, but recovery from the last known good version of that file in a cyber attack, right? Because you
Right.
don't know what version is going to be affected. It's not always going to be from last Thursday that that's clean, right? So you're trying to effectively recover the cleanest copy of a file. That's for sure with what's changed and evolved over the years. And you hit the nail on the head with what we did in the early days with the internet and networks and firewalls, and all that's thrown out the window, especially like you talked about the migration to the cloud and hybrid cloud and on-prem and all that. So yeah, Absolutely.
Yeah, and then I think that feeds into kind of the mid 2000s or early 2010s, where people started to really kind of adopt cloud, and you created more cracks in the
Yeah.
wall that you'd built around yourself, and you start to see the rise of, instant response, being aware of, hey, there's this vulnerability out there in software, and people can take advantage of it. The log4js of the world, and the global worms and everything, and you see the Sims starting to come up. Splunk is probably the most famous one of doing a log analysis and understanding who's in my environment and moving. So I think it's kind of the
Or,
nascent. Yeah,
or
go
even
ahead.
remember in the early days when people were really naive to the approach, oh yeah, it's in the cloud.
Yes.
Unprotected, and they don't realize they only had one version there, and if that got affected, yeah, good luck recovering your data, right? Um, Data protection backup, it's never been a sexy topic to talk about, right? Now, companies very rarely heavily invested in their backup infrastructure, and that was a lot of stuff that I was working on in throughout my days in those VARs, doing health check assessments around TSM and ensuring that customers could recover even just for a DR test. Let's prioritize and ensure, hey, what's your tier 0, your tier 1, your tier 2,
Yep.
tier 3 clients? Let's arrange it, because in those days, as you recall, Gary, you'd have limited number of tape drives, so you're trying to stream as much data at the same time to recover. That was the key, also not just for the DR test, but in general to be up. And that's the other thing when we talk about cyber recovery. You want to be up as quick as possible. In those days, with not only just with physical tape, but even with virtual tape. Hey, how do I prioritize what data I want to bring back as quickly as possible? So
Yeah, and I think some of the things that I was working on with customers back then was understanding upstream and downstream data dependencies. Not even, hey, this is on-prem, this is in cloud, but even when most everything was still on-prem, like, okay, what's this tier 0 application? Turns out, it's relying on data from a tier 3, and I think also as backup systems got more mature and you started to move into things like VTLs and backup to disk targets, and where you could replicate between disk arrays and things, I think that made it not easier, but it introduced the complexity of, oh no, a hacker or somebody can attack me and get in my system and not only affect my production, but get into, because the tape was kind of a physical thing that it was more difficult for them to kind of touch and get into.
yeah,
But
that's right.
now you have it all online on disk, spinning disk. Now they can get in there, and now they start to affect versions of your backups. And then I think that's where you've seen. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, when you're getting hit with a ransomware attack, they don't want you to recover. They want you to pay that ransom. So
Yep.
they're going to attack your backup infrastructure. And a lot of times, and I think you hit it on it earlier, it's lurking there for a while. You don't know. And the whole sole purpose is not to just affect you for going back 2, 3 days. It sits there and it waits
And
so
they've
that
been
you
and
can't
they've been
recover.
in your systems for months in many
Exactly.
of these cases that they didn't know. And I think that's where you've seen kind of this rise of that cyber resiliency, where
That's right.
people have gotten really aware of it and have looked at, because if you look at the federal budget and what people are spending money on, they're spending money on AI and cyber.
Yeah.
Those two things are constantly at the top of it, because especially as they're getting more and more effective at doing it, they're moving much faster, and it's a lot of state operators that are looking to, at least in the federal space, affect them. With
Yeah.
the Irans, the Chinas, et cetera.
That's right.
So people are looking at, how do I protect my environment, not just from being infected, but how do I recover it and recover it quickly without having to pay this? So one of the things that we've seen is that NIST Cybersecurity 2.0 framework, which I'll kind of talk about here in a minute. But where do we see the future trends? And I'd be interested in this. I see a lot of resilience built into technology that was may have been there before, but we're looking to use it and we're strengthening it with things like immutable snapshots. But I also see, AI ops feeding into this where people are using that tooling to improve their positioning and being faster at responding to this.
Yeah, and also, I think what also helps is the Commvault is just at the end of the day, it's software, it's backup software. We've
Mhm.
integrated a lot of the pre and like I said, I'll get into this, but the pre and the post security features. But then working with vendors like Hitachi, right? You guys are working yourselves on cybersecurity type of features and measures within your storage products itself. For example,
Mhm.
I mean, your object storage or HCP being a worm device. So anything that hits that immediately is immutable, right? But then having that added layer of ransomware immutability, now you can utilize the S3 object lock featuring from Commvault along with HCP to now give you that added layer of ransomware security against cyber attacks for, let's say, certain compliance data, right? That your organization feels, hey, we need to make sure that we are protecting ourselves and we're compliant with this set of data. So work that hand in hand partnership that we have with Commvault and Hitachi completes that full story or that full picture around cyber resilience, cyber
Yeah.
security for our customers.
Well, and I think what you're just talking about kind of feeds into the next slide where we look at those pillars of cyber resiliency, and this comes from directly from the kind of the NIST cybersecurity
Sure.
framework, because NIST is always really great at defining standards and helping people codify, this is what you should be worrying about.
Right.
And I mean, really governing is kind of understanding what you have, and then to identify, you know, understand what's out there and who has access to it. What's your excuse me, what's your business process? What are you looking to do?
Exactly.
And it even goes down to supply chain risk management. What we're seeing with the cyber executive orders, things like the secure software development lifecycle management, where their vendors are having to attest that they are not introducing cyber threats into their products through that secure software.
Yeah,
Um,
and
yeah,
And
go
and
ahead.
and to your point, I mean, look, at the end of the day, that bottom area where you say govern, right, of where you're showing there, all the compliance and legal regulations and all that just keep popping up almost daily within every industry, right? That basically forces whether they're government entities or companies or wherever they have to comply to these rules and regulations because they're being written and they're being created based on what's going on in the world today, right? And for customers to follow this framework to ensure that, hey, we're identifying and protecting and ensuring that all this is built in within, like I was saying earlier, the software layer of your backup ISV, and then as well as the hardware layer on yours, it helps complete that full story that we were talking about earlier to meet these rules and regulations and this framework that's been created around cyber resilience.
Yeah, yeah, and I think this is really helping people kind of structure the way that they think about cyber, because I think a lot of people still, worry about when they think about cyber attacks, they think solely about kind of ransomware because that's the one that they have the least control over.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, but there's lots of areas in enterprise where you can look at detection, anomaly detection, security, continuous monitoring, and using data analytic tools to look at logs and finding anomalies within data access patterns. And
That's right.
you're even
And
seeing things like deceptive cyber now.
yeah, and
um,
that whole anomaly detection, that's what's built into our Commvault product itself. When you are backing up your data, it's monitoring that. Like I said in the earlier slide around utilizing AI, we've been doing that for quite some time now, where we're utilizing AI, we're creating these honeypots that you don't have the ability to control, right? It's all being done using AI, and it's monitoring on a daily basis your backup traffic for different clients. It's alerting customers, hey, something doesn't look right here. You may want to take a look at it. Or when you were talking earlier about improving your security within the product, we have stuff that's built in called Security IQ that shows your security posture score. And the great thing about that is I tell customers that that this helps bring the backup admin closer with the security admin within organizations, right? The backup admin that's monitoring Commvault sees a list of recommendations that Commvault knows through the rules and regulations that are out there, utilizing the AI, and gives recommendations. Hey, you could resolve, for example, the setting around timeouts for. I'm just throwing something out there where you have it set to 60 minutes. Really, it should be set to 30 or below. So it alerts you to those things, and the backup admin can just rectify, fix that instantly by clicking on the three dots within the Security IQ GUI and immediately improve their security posture score. So it's showing you what's good in your environment, what are some cautions, and what are red flags, and help you rectify those within the product itself. At least from a Commvault perspective, your security posture could increase within your environment and get you ever more tighter in that area.
Yeah, and I think that fits into that respond and recover that you see there. But
Exactly.
I think a lot of people have the govern down pretty well. A lot of our customers that I talk to, they got the govern, they got the identify, the protect. They know what they're protecting. They know how to detect it. I think the respond and the recover are the things that they're starting to really mature in that area, but that's still, they're hoping that they never have to test it. Because some of the things that you want to have to do is no one ever wants to have to recover this, because because it becomes a crime scene, right? When you do have one of these attacks, so you want to get back up and running. And I think that's where people are looking to industry and various solutions to help with that response and really the recover. So
we'll get into that because we have this layout with how Commvault fits and all that. But what you just said just now is a big factor in a feature that we have. But as you know, that when customers get hit with ransomware, a lot of times it's a crime scene, like you said. It's being shut down for forensic analysis and all. And for you to that is a worry that customers have, because then how are they going to get back up and running, right? And the ability to maybe, and I'll get into this, but to spin up your environment outside of your production environment and still maintain your business and run while that is being analyzed, that's also another way of how you respond and you recover, to what your point was before.
Yeah, and I think one of the things before we kind of go into how we can help, the last thing I'll kind of say is I think people underestimate the cost to recover, because recovery is not just, hey, I need to restore everything in place and have it ready. You're going to have extra capacity and headroom in your enterprise to kind of get back up and running in a quick, and it's an investment that people are going to have to make, and it's going to become the cost of doing business to meet your mission, especially if you look at some of our DoD and IC customers, that the concept of that system going down or that mission not being met is really looking at people's lives and national security and or citizen services in the civilian spaces. So that kind of feeds into kind of where we want to go next. Like, how can we help? How can Hitachi and Commvault help? And one of the things that is with Hitachi and Commvault is we've had a relationship for 20 years as OEM. We've resold Commvault's technology, the entire portfolio. There's alignment at executive and engineering levels between Hitachi and Commvault. And one of the unique things is any solution that Hitachi Vantara Federal sells is we will take first call on that support. So if you buy a Commvault, and we have several customers that buy both our storage and Commvault from us, it's one call to our US-based storage support facility and organization, and then they will manage all that escalation and troubleshooting from their location in Colorado. And really, we have these joint offerings around hyperscale X, scale up, block NAS, and object storage that is comprehensive data protection and cyber solutions for our customers. And I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that, Cyrus.
I mean, look, the 20-year OEM relationship. Yeah, just want to re-emphasize something. Hitachi is the only OEM of Commvault. Okay, and HDPS, the Hitachi Data Protection Suite, is what Hitachi calls Commvault. There's no difference in the product. Okay, when customers buy Commvault from Hitachi, it'll just be HDPS. Everything that Commvault has, from releases to maintenance, it's the same thing with HTTPS. And that single point of contact for support, that's huge. A lot of customers I know, because when I was at Hitachi and also here, they like that that feature where they can, have one call to support for both software as well as hardware, right? And on that bottom area, the joint offerings, the whole uh, the whole Hitachi storage portfolio, which is your VSP block, your NAS, and your object storage, right? Those are all perfect targets for backup and data protection. And then Hitachi being the only OEM, they have their own Hyperscale X that they offer. Hyperscale X, for those who don't know, that is basically a hyper-converged backup in a box appliance, where it starts with 3 server nodes, and it can increase 1 node at a time based on the size that your environment is and will grow to. The difference we call that scale up. The difference with Hitachi storage, that's Hyperscale X is scale out. Using Hitachi storage is scale up, and you can independently scale compute and capacity based on your requirements within your environment. So that's the difference. And again, like you said earlier, the partnership and the level of engineering and alignment that we have is, it's a 20-year relationship that we have going on here.
Yep, absolutely. And then, as we kind of look at this kind of the better, powerful together, we have 20 years of partnership, over 1,300 joint customers. So this isn't something that we put in place just for, anything. We put this there, over, and we are committed. I would say, and I kind of said this before, we're our closest OEM relationships, because of that time, has been with Commvault. And we've been a leader in the storage quadrant, for 13 years running, and really some of the things that we'll talk about in a couple slides are features of our storage that make that Commvault solution even stronger around immutable storage, snapshots, etc.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and then you see there Commvault for 12 years running that thing. So Cyrus, I'm going to kind of turn it over to you. Tell us a little bit about the Commvault and what it is, because I think a lot of people, when they think about Commvault, they think about it as just, it's just a backup product. It's not this large kind of architecture.
Yeah, no, perfect. So when people typically think of Commvault, they think it's legacy backup. And Commvault's different and unique in that way, right? They're nimble. They've adapted over the years. They see what customers' needs are and update their product. They see what the rules and regulations that we talked about earlier under the govern aspect. All these rules and regulations that are being created, not just in the federal space, but globally. For example, there's a new regulation coming out in January in the EU around banking and the financial industry called DORA. These are all the way Commvault has created their product, and how we continue to design it. We're incorporating all this within that we can meet current regulations and potentially future regulations, the way we've designed it. Again, we are the software layer, and we work best with all our vendors that are our partners out there, like Hitachi. And we've adapted. We're not the typical traditional legacy backup ISV that you're familiar with, like with the other competition out there, like Spectrum Protect and Net Backup. We've adapted over the years, and what you see here is in the middle, around November of last year, Commvault made a big announcement with changes that you're going to see that I'll talk about, but we call it shift. And we've shifted from being just a data protection backup company into now more security focus and cyber security focus. And what we've done is, the traditional Commvault product, but there was also Metallic, and that's our SaaS offering. We brought it all together, and now we call it all Commvault Cloud. It's one product suite. And what we've done is we're trying to ensure that from beginning all the way to the post side of backups, that your backups are protected, secure, and you are going to recover the cleanest possible file. So what Commvault is around the risk, around doing risk assessment, protecting your data, the readiness, and I'm going to get into this, the early warning detection. We have products such as ThreatWise or the anomaly detection. And then on the recovery side, the post forensic analysis, where you have, basically antivirus scans of your backups. And it works along with the ComServe to ensure that, hey, I detected something that anomaly detection didn't detect. Flag this version of the file or flag this client not to be recovered. So again, ensuring that when things go really south and you are now in a cyber recovery, you are ensuring that you are recovering the cleanest possible version of that file. So Commvault's there helping you. And again, that takes that whole AI aspect of incorporating within our own product and improving our own product as well. So what you see here on the left are all the workloads that are out there, from on-prem, cloud, SaaS. We protect everything. Okay. And over years, customers know that they can rely on Commvault to protect all the different types of workloads within their environment. But then what you see here is, since shift is shifting that you see on the right side with working with security companies that our customers are utilizing within their environment, monitoring, like we were talking about earlier, that whole new approach around cyber resilience, cyber recovery, utilizing security tools within your environment and working alongside the Commvault Cloud suite. So one of the things that also,
which is really
yeah,
smart, because if your customers are already using it, there's no sense in kind of reinventing the wheel,
that's right.
in that case. So no.
Right. And one of the main things that we try to ensure is that all these new products that we're incorporating into Commvault Cloud, it has one UI. So that single UI interface experience for customers, where you're not utilizing a different management tool to accomplish this set of features, or it's all built in within the Commvault Cloud UI. And on that recovery side, a recent announcement we had back in April was clean room recovery. And think of that as modern day DR testing. The ability to now spin up in the cloud and in your Commvault environment and recover. And as I was saying earlier, a lot of times customers, their on-prem environment is now a crime scene. It's being shut down for forensic analysis. Potentially FBI is involved. For you to be able to now bring up your environment in this clean room and potentially even run your production while that's being analyzed. And this goes back again, like I was saying earlier, around the ability on the post side to ensure that you've scanned all those backup files and you know that you've recovered all those clean files. So the goal is to ensure that you are up and running as soon as possible. But we've also taken it to the next level. We made an acquisition recently called Appranix, and we're building that into our own product as well. It's one thing to recover all this data and all your workloads, but now how you need to account for rebuilding your apps as well. So the ability to automate your app rebuild as well, that's where Appranix comes in. And again, all in one UI, single user interface experience with Commvault Cloud. That's the differentiator between us and all the other competition. And that's also differentiator when Hitachi Vantara partners with Commvault for our customers and both our joint partners when we're selling a full data protection, cyber resilient solution to customers.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's kind of go to the next slide, because what we've done is we've taken that NIST framework and kind of overlaid, this portfolio that we have together in that, and aligned it with those different areas. And you already kind of talked about some of this, but with the clean room recovery. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, let's talk about Identify. We have a product within Commvault. We've had it for years called Risk Analysis. Commvault's PS team utilizes this to do assessments for customers where they'll utilize the risk analysis feature to help customers prioritize and identify the different data types. A lot of times, what we've seen the trend is after about a petabyte, customers don't know what type of data they have, how many versions of that that file do they have, do they meet certain criteria for the compliance regulations for the different data types. So prioritizing your different data types within your environment, that's risk analysis. That goes back to what I was telling you earlier, Gary, about the early days of doing DR tests and knowing what your tier 0, 1,
Right.
2, 3 tier clients are. That's where risk analysis comes in. Again, all built in within Commvault. Let's go into that the other areas. Protect. Utilizing, like I said earlier, S3 object locking, that added layer of ransomware compliance around,
that immutability.
Immutability, exactly. Again, HCP is a worm device, so it's immutable, whatever data you write. But then that added layer of doing S3 object locking for those different, going back to the risk analysis for the compliance for the different file types, that's another thing where we're working together where we can help enhance the customer's protection and recovery. The ability to use Commvault's IntelliSnap to take snapshots off the Hitachi storage arrays, a single area where you can create a policy to create your snapshot, protect it all within Commvault, and even recover it as well. That's another added feature bonus that we have between Commvault and Hitachi. Air Gap Protect. What you see at Air Gap Protect is the ability to have, let's say you have your primary, your DR site, they're both on-prem, but let's say you have certain data that you want to replicate out to the cloud. Utilizing Air Gap Protect with Commvault allows you to now make a third copy of your data, let's say. Some customers use it as their second copy. There were some customers at Hitachi that have an on-prem, and then their copy is at Air Gap Protect. And that plays in really well with, on the right side that you see, with clean room recovery. Okay, clean room recovery is now Commvault was the first to come out with clean room recovery. There are now other vendors that have their own version of clean room recovery. But like I was telling you earlier, clean room recovery is, let's call it the modern day DR test. You don't have to take tapes all the way to a SunGard or an IBM facility. Now you're just spinning up your environment, especially if you've been replicating the Air Gap Protect. You're spinning up your environment. You can spin up your ComServe, your media agents, and immediately start to recover the data that's within Air Gap Protect.
And we have solutions in that space, that complement that with Top Center Protector and Cyber VR for VMware environments.
Right.
it's the same sort of thing. You, as soon as you need to, you can spin it up, but that kind of goes back to, you need to be prepared for that, because it's additional capacity that people may not necessarily have on prem, or spinning it up in the cloud's a little bit easier because you give them your credit card and you just kind of go. But
Yeah.
when you're looking at on-prem recovery models, it's obviously going to be even more important.
Now, the other three things I want to point out. Earlier, I talked about we talked about security IQ. That was a feature function that was originally metallic when we brought it into now the whole Commvault cloud portfolio, and basically that's improving your security posture score. What can you do within Commvault itself? Again, Commvault's utilizing AI to improve itself as well. It knows it sees what the trend is for certain rules and regulations, allows you to update and improve your security within your environment. Threat-wise, threat-wise is big, it allows you to basically deploy decoys of certain things within your environment. Let's say network switches, anything that has a GUI admin interface can be basically created as a decoy, and you can see if you're actually being hacked and penetrated, and you can make them maybe go after what this decoy is and see, hey, okay, we need to improve some of our network function security within our environment to prevent this, or you can see what's going on. So that's all on the early phase also that I was talking about earlier, about from the very early all the way to the post side. And that leads to the post side. We have a feature called a threat scan. Threat scan is like antivirus of scanning of your backups. You create basically you deploy threat scan servers within your production environment, because it's tied to your ComServe. And basically what it's doing is it's scanning your backup files and VMs, and it's alerting customers that, hey, I've detected something that anomaly detection with the current backup workload did not. You might want to take a look at this. And also what it does is it flags it. It doesn't allow you to, because it's working with the ComServe, if you are recovering, it won't allow you to recover that file. It's going to go to a previous version. And it's going to alert you that, hey, I found something. So you're probably going to want to do more scannings to figure out, hey, what version can I go back to? So when you do have to recover, again, it's automated in that sense.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I think the big key thing is, as you look at this, like, there's a lot of tools that Hitachi and Commvault are bringing to help you with, being a cyber resilient organization. And most of it already in there, it's already kind of part of that Commvault Cloud or HTTPS and the Hitachi block solutions.
And if it's not, we're trying to, Commvault itself is trying to look at what's out there and what can we add into the portfolio suite. So like I was saying, our recent acquisition of Appranix, again, what I was talking about was to be able to detect, recover the cleanest file, but now you've recovered all the data, but now customers have to rebuild all their apps. Well, how do we make that simpler for customers to now take it to the next step of automating the recovery of your applications? And again, all this is being developed, brought into the product suite, and all under one UI with the Commvault Cloud Suite.
Absolutely. That's great. I think that's really good. So kind of in summary, like, what do they bring? I mean, Commvault brings that cyber platform, really. I mean, it's not just a data protection platform. It's not your grandfather's backup, right? And it's really the blueprint for that, addressing and meeting compliance, not just in the federal space, but commercial elements as well.
And what I found is not just current rules and regulations, but it seems like a lot of the other newer rules and regulations that are coming up, we've already addressed that with our product. So customers don't have to wait for some sort of feature enhancement or compliance enhancement around some compliance regulations come out. It's already there. We're working on that if it hasn't been met. So yeah.
Yep. Perfect. And then, Hitachi brings, our enterprise class storage platform with things like SafeSnap, S3 object lock you already talked about, And then the ability, you already talked about some of your SaaS models, with the Metallic platform. Hitachi offers Everflex as a service model as well. So we're well positioned to kind of really work together to provide as a service models to our customers.
Yeah, and that's huge. Your whole Everflex offering for giving the option to customers to grow as they consume also, that's huge. And I would also add in there your ability with Hitachi financing. A lot of customers like that single full package that they get with the Hitachi financing approach. I know there were a few customers when I was at Hitachi that went not just because it was the only OEM of Commvault and having that single point of contact, but it was also that ability to utilize Hitachi's financing along with Everflex to have that solution be affordable and meet their needs around what
Reliable,
they're
yeah.
looking for. Reliable, yeah.
Yep, exactly. So, and then, our partners take advantage of this partnership because it gives them a stronger value prop to their
Yeah.
customers. And then, the benefit for the customer is really a cyber platform that's well known, well tested, and robust and mature in the marketplace, I think,
Yeah,
as well.
exactly.
Okay, perfect. And yeah, I mean, one of the unique things as well is as y'all have moved to your cloud offering, really focused on hybrid, Hitachi has moved towards that. If you look at the products we're coming out with and the innovations we're making, it's solely focused on operating in a hybrid cloud environment because that's what we realize all our customers are going to end up at the
Yep.
end of the day. Good. So I think that was a great message for how we could help customers and kind of the evolution of cyber, where we've gotten to where it was just back up to tapes and it never, it went on a truck and we did the recoveries to kind of where we are now, where we have to be very forward thinking and looking at that. So kind of our last thing, our last audience poll before we kind of take on Q&A is, which aspect of cyber resilience do you believe is the most critical for your organization to focus on? Because I think a lot of people have different opinions, and I think it relates to the maturity of the organization. So let's see what everyone thinks around kind of where is their most critical focus. To come in here. And I think I see a lot of organizations continuing to kind of mature and look at industry to help them address this. So as these answers start to come in, we'll see where kind of people think their focus is going to be. Nope. Ensuring recovery and business continuity at 46% is not surprising at all. And then second place came in at adapting to evolving threats and vulnerability at 23%. So, I mean, people are really focused on kind of being dynamic and responding to new threats because they're constantly evolving. And we're going to continue to see that with the AI, I think.
Exactly.
And everyone's worried about the recovery. I think that tracks because, no one wants to be on the front page of the Washington Post that they had an attack. So
that's only the major ones, right? I mean, every day customers are getting hit and they're just not advertising, and there's a lot more criteria, especially around these rules and regulations around a lot of customers have cyber insurance, right? And now you got to meet those rules and regulations just to get them to pay out the ransom if you need to go down that route. So
yeah, exactly. And then now the Q&A, we have two questions here. First one is with the Commvault Metallic offering, is that offered in FedRAMP?
yeah, actually, you know what? It's funny you say that. So I talked about earlier about how in November we made what we call shift at Commvault, where everything is all now under Commvault Cloud. We brought everything together in one product portfolio suite. And speaking of FedRAMP, and Commvault is the only data protection company currently that is FedRAMP High certified. and that's a huge you know, advantage also with Hitachi when they're partnering with Commvault and offering, especially for federal customers, to meet that rule and regulation compliance. Knowing that, hey, Commvault is certified and is the only data protection company that's certified as FedRAMP High. That propagates down to then Hitachi Vantara customers when they're utilizing Hitachi storage and Commvault. So yeah.
Yeah, and we have a couple joint customers that have purchased Metallic High, and that FedRAMP High was a key issue because,
Yeah.
I mean, I can't think of anyone that's even interested in a FedRAMP Low, and everyone is kind of looked at high as kind of the standard, I think, going
Yeah.
forward. Especially as that continues as it got codified in the NDAA last year and everything.
Just
The other
emphasizing again, we're the only ones out there right now from a data protection company that are FedRAMP High certified. So that's huge right now. Others play catch up. And I talked about before about clean room recovery. We were the first to introduce clean room.
Yeah.
We were the only ones for a while, and then other competitors saw and they're, well, we gotta have our own offering, and now they have their own different versioning. But what they're offering is, again, yeah, they may have something like that they can offer, but this goes back to when we incorporate new feature functionality and regulations, we're bringing it all into one UI, like I was saying before. So
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the clean room because the other question is around that. Because are threat scan, threat wise, and clean room recovery additional, or can I just buy them by themselves? I think some people are, if they don't have Commvault, and they want something to bolt on their existing backup, is that something they can buy independently, or is it packaged with that Commvault cloud
Yeah,
offering?
actually you can. You can purchase them independently, but then the way we structured things, like I said back in November, is we have 3 different categories of licensing. So for those who are familiar with Commvault, it's licensed on front-end terabytes, whether they're unstructured or structured files, and then 10-pack VMs. So based on however many, but then you have, like we talked about earlier, with risk analysis, threat-wise, threat scan, clean room, even air gap protect. These are added licensing features. But as I was saying, going back to shift in November, we created 3 different categories. We have foundational recovery, which is traditional backup recovery, being able to recover from a DR scenario. You have autonomous recovery, so it has added features such as automated DR recovery, live sync, feature functionality, and then you have cyber recovery. And if you pick the cyber recovery package, if customers who are working with Hitachi Vantara, they pick that, they would have the ability to have threat-wise, threat scan, clean room. But you can, that doesn't stop current customers who maybe have traditional structured, unstructured, and VM 10. If they want to add just threat scan, they can add that. Call up Gary and hey, we
Sounds
want
good.
to have
I'm
clean
ready.
room recovery added. Yay, great. Those clean room recovery, threat scan, air gap protect, they're all based on front end terabytes. The
Okay,
advantage
awesome.
also, I have to also point this out, air gap protect, I talked about earlier, being that, like, let's say your third copy in the cloud, it is based on front end terabytes. And that's huge because your backend will be a lot greater because of retention, right? But there's no egress fees to recover your data. It's all built
Which
in.
is big deal.
Yeah. So you don't have to worry about, oh, now I got to pay to recover my data. No, you're putting your data there. It's protected with Commvault. Commvault knows about it, and at any time you can recover. And there's 2 different versions too. There's cold and warm, or hot type of. So if you want a quicker recovery, that'd be a little bit more additional. But hey, knowing that you don't have to pay egress fees to get your data back, that's huge too.
That
Commvault
is
is not trying to own your data in that sense, like the cloud
absolutely.
vendors are.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's a perfect answer. And then we got time for one more question that came in. Is the FedRAMP offering offered with Metallic offering, is that standard or is that an add-on? And I think the way that I would kind of phrase that is Metallic only in FedRAMP, or is there a commercial cloud offering and there's separate offerings? Like there's a cost for the FedRAMP Hive solution versus if they go out to Azure Marketplace, you know?
It's all built in within the product, and it's not just for Metallic. It's for the full Commvault cloud, so even core Commvault too. So
Okay, so
Okay.
that's the kind of the offering is that FedRAMP High offering
Exactly.
to maintain the security controls. Okay, great. Well,
That's right.
thank you very much for the time.
Yeah,
I
thank
hope
you.
everyone
This is great.
I hope everyone found this very interesting, and this will be available on replay. You'll get the link for that, and we look forward to future Talk Data to Me sessions as we go into this. And everyone have a great week, and please more than ever, reach out. It's just not about backups anymore, and it's really looking at that forward, that recovery, and protecting. And that long-term relationship that Hitachi and Commvault have offers you a pretty robust cyber platform. So, continue to kind of learn about that. We're going to send out some resources and the replay of this to give you that. And feel free to reach out to us if you need anything. We appreciate you and look forward to talking to you on the next Talk Data to Me. Thank you.
Thanks again.